Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. I'm coming to you live from Barabala Mining Camp. So for those who don't know where Barabala is, it's 2 hours west of Rockhampton, so central Queensland. There's not a lot out here. It is a very small town. So just as a few little stats, the population is about 200. It has a primary school, it has a police station, has a fire brigade, it has a very small medical centre, but it is built around mining. It's one of the oldest mining towns in Queensland. They've been here for a long time. Coal mine is the main resource that they're mining. And I was fortunate enough to actually get a tour of the mine today, and surprisingly it's one of the smallest mines in Australia compared to some of the bigger ones out west or up north. So but for me, this is the first time I've actually set foot in a mine like this, an open cut mine, and it was a big eye opener in terms of how it works, the functionality, the efficiency of it, and of course all the workers. Now there's about 400 staff in this mine at various levels, and I found it very interesting. So I've obviously been engaged to come up here and firstly present and then facilitate a health and wellness program for the miners, for all the staff, to try and implement ways to improve their overall health and wellness, whether it be a little bit more exercise, improvement on nutrition, improvement in mental health. It's a big space that they want to improve, and as many people are aware, miners predominantly work 12-hour shifts. They do day shift, they do night shift. They basically go to work in the dark, they come home in the dark. I'm literally sitting in my donga right now, and it is, I would say, the same size. It's actually smaller than my bathroom at home. I've got a single bed, a little desk, a fridge, bathroom to the side, which is tiny as well. And that's what they live in for 7 days on and 7 days off. They obviously go home to wherever that may be. So it can be quite isolating and it can be quite refining. And you can imagine that it can play with your mental health. So the reason for them to engage me was to try and improve that space a little bit. And if the miners take away 5% from the program, great. If they take away 10%, great. But at the same time, they will become long-term more efficient workers, higher output, obviously more positive environment as well if they can improve their own health and well-being. So hopefully it will be well received. But I just wanted to talk on the podcast today about my own experience, because this is a space that I've never been in. I've worked in construction for many years at various levels, but mining always eluded me. I did consider going and seeking out employment in the mines when I was younger, and even when I had a family, but it never eventuated. But now, having been here, I don't know if I would ever consider it. Like, I love my job anyway. So, but even, on hindsight, knowing this element, and this is apparently one of the better mines in terms of the community. There's not a high turnover rate of staff. They do look after them very well. I imagine that some of the other mines might be a little bit more higher turnover. So it's not as comforting, I suppose. But the mine camp facility itself is quite good. Everyone has their own little space. They've got communal spaces. The dining hall is nothing huge by any means. It makes me feel like I'm in like the 1970s at my school tuck shop. The food is, it's interesting. It's what you would expect, I guess. There's a lot of, obviously, volume of food produced, so a lot of vegetables made in volume, a lot of like pasta bakes, potato bakes. There was roast beef one night. There's been sausages and gravy. There's been chicken in a marinade of some description. There's rice meals. There's lots of breads, lots of muffins, lots of croissants. They do provide a lot of fruit as an option as well. The canteen itself, I call it the canteen, the mess hall, is only open for breakfast and dinner. It's not open for lunch because there's no one effectively here during the day at the mine camp, because they're all working 12-hour shifts or they're sleeping. So during the day, they're not open. So that's when obviously the kitchen staff do a handover, a changeover. So you have to basically be organised as a miner to take your lunch with you. So they have obviously takeaway containers, and they've got a lot of, cold options to take. Cold meats, you can make wraps. There's ready-made meals in a fridge over there as well. So they're pretty well organised and supplied in terms of covering all bases for the mining workers. But if, as a miner, if your ambition or your your intention is to lose some weight, it could be quite challenging from a food perspective. I sat back and obviously observed a lot of people when they came in, and I don't think they're consciously making any decision around volume of food when they serve it up. It's more about just put a heap of food on the plate because I'm at dinner time. All I want to do is have a shower and go to bed. And then in the morning, they're probably pressured for time to get as much in as they can before they have to go to site. So I would imagine that the consciousness around making smart decisions on volume and selection of food is probably not there. And I can understand why that would be the case. And then, if you think about it, when they bulk up on, say, a lot of carb-heavy foods, that can promote tiredness, that can promote fatigue, particularly when they're already fatigued due to, a 7-day stint. They might be pulling nights, they might be pulling days, but they are effectively very, very tired. And, the sleeping environment isn't exactly conducive to a really good night's sleep. So, and that's one of the things that was brought up in conversation, is that sleep management is really challenging because by the time they get home, they have to unwind, they've got to eat, shower, they might be calling their family, anything like that. So their sleep is quite limited, and then they've got to punch through another 12-hour day on a digger, on a dozer, on a truck. They might be in health and safety, whatever the case may be. So it can be quite challenging. And I can now see firsthand what they're up against. So by no means is this program that I'm going to deliver a fail-safe. It's not going to move mountains, but it hopefully will make them more aware of things that they can implement that will just make subtle changes to their lifestyle to improve it. Because the last thing you want is for anyone to suffer from fatigue where they end up driving home after their 7-day stint and having an accident, or they have an accident on site, or they're unhealthy to work, unfit to work because they're carrying too much weight or not enough energy, or maybe they have a heart complaint or an illness or an injury or whatever the case may be. So those sorts of things are very much at the forefront of the mine's mind, and that's why they want to implement this change. So, seeing the camp itself, it was certainly an eye-opener, very foreign. I haven't really engaged too much with the miners to date because I don't really see them, given that they work the 12 hours. When they come back, they're fairly quiet. A couple of them stick in their groups and things like that. And look, I'll be completely honest, this is an intimidating environment too. Driving here on Monday night in the dark, trying to find the mine camp in a very small town in the middle of nowhere in the dark. I had very little phone reception, so that was a challenge in itself. And then the next morning, I was up at the crack of dawn to head to the pre-starts to present these programs. And that's what I've been doing. I've been presenting the program, talking for 30 seconds to a minute about it to each pre-start group. First group was the blasters and the drillers. The second group was maintenance, and the third group was the production team. So they're all at various levels of being receptive or not. Some of them are just obviously heavily fatigued, and some of them clearly are not interested, and that's fine. So it's a really interesting environment to be in on the mine. And then I've got, I think, what is it now? It's Wednesday at 11 a.m. now. And I've got one more tonight, and then I head home tomorrow. So, the point of me coming up here was to experience it firsthand, to obviously deliver the program, or at least talk about it to get people excited, but more so to experience what they actually do, their day-to-day, where they sleep, where they eat, where they work. I got a tour of the mine today as well, so I got to go into the depths of the pit. See all the machinery up close, see the working conditions, the living conditions, where they break, where they have their lunch, how that is facilitated. They're pretty well looked after, so no expense is spared in terms of making the facility as good as it is. But look, at the end of the day, it's still a mine, and that's never going to become a comforting thing. But people don't come here for comfort, they come here for the dollar. They want to obviously get ahead, and I can understand that. But you also want to make sure that they're working to their utmost, they're productive, they're efficient, and they are safe. That's another thing that they are big on is safety. Safety is paramount. Every day there's a pre-start. They talk about safety. They've got to document so many things. They've got to be inducted. I have to be inducted. They do a breathalyzer test every single day. Things like that are really, really paramount. So it's a real opener. If you've never been into this industry, as big as it may be, for me it was a real opener and a real cultural change in terms of just the environment. I was running. I thought, right, I'll get outside and go for a walk yesterday, because I was up in my little donga doing some work, and I thought I've got to get outside and get some sunshine. So I walked out the front of the camp, turned left, turned right, and went, I don't even know where to go because there's not much around. And that's how small the town is. Like, you think of a small country town, and this is a lot smaller than that. Like, I live in Malula, which is a small country town, but Malula has an IGA, it has a petrol station, it has a post office. Granted, this place does have a very small food works, and I'm talking very small, but that's about it. The pub burnt down years ago, the cafe shut down, so there's nothing else for miners to do, and that's the other thing. They've got no opportunity to unwind. From what I've been told, when the pub was open, that's where they'd head after their shift to unwind, have a counter meal, catch up with friends, maybe call their family, and that was sort of a bit of a release for them. Now they just come back to camp and basically head back to their bunk. It can be very repetitive, and it can obviously be quite monotonous, and that monotony can obviously lead to, you know, a depressed state, more or less, in some instances. So it's not for everyone, that's for sure. So I take my hat off to the workers because they do it tough. Like, rolling in this morning early for the pre-start, the night shift was finishing, and a lot of them are walking back to their cars covered in coal, covered in black soot, clearly fatigued. You know, it's a big effort that they put in, and this is obviously for our Australian resource economy. So my hat off to them. I don't think I could do it, to be honest. But I just wanted to sort of share my insights while I'm sitting here in my dongo at the moment, waiting for my next appointment. It's a good opportunity just in real time to actually sort of open up and talk about this experience. It was such a once in a lifetime, and I'd never have thought I would have been able to do it. It's great for my business, of course, but at the same time, it gives me a lot of perspective on the mining industry, even though this one is quite small. The remoteness, the isolation, and just the living conditions, and that therefore can allow me to facilitate this program a lot better, having seen it. Like, if I had done the program without visiting site, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as good, and I certainly wouldn't have made it as customizable as it potentially can be, because the mining lifestyle is very different to every other lifestyle. Like, you might be a construction worker working 12-hour days, but this lifestyle is so different. It is so different. Like, you're so remote, phone reception's poor, you're away from your family, living in a box basically for 7 days. It can, I reckon it'd be challenging for sure for anyone, whether you're young or old or whatever. Like, I was speaking to one of the supervisors this morning who took me around, and they have to, for the young miners that come on board and start at a young age, you know, who think they're indestructible, they have to monitor them more closely than the experienced ones, because they believe they're, like I said, indestructible. Their ego might get the better of them. They think they'll be fine. They can manage fatigue even though they've probably never experienced it. So things like that can really open your eyes up. So it's a challenging situation, a challenging environment, a challenging industry, but without it, Australia isn't on the map in terms of one of the world leaders in you know, resources that we provide. So it's a fascinating situation. So I've got one more pre-start to do tonight. So just as a side note, pre-start's effectively their safety induction back onto the site, any issues from the previous 12 hours, things they have to catch up on, reminders, things like that. So they give me an opportunity to talk to the group in, you know, 30 seconds to a minute or whatever about the program, and just gauge interest and go from there. But so I've got 3 more tonight, and then it'll be a case of head home tomorrow. So it's been a wonderful experience. I certainly have appreciated it for what it is, as challenging for me as it has been, being so isolated and away from the family and everything like that. But I'm glad that I've done it. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to just do a quick podcast and share my experience, my insight into the mining sector, as little as this may be. And as I said, this is a small mine compared to many others. I think they produce about 1.5 million tonnes of coal a year, or export 1.5 million tonnes of coal a year, but the big mines can do up to 15. So that sort of gives you a bit of a scale. Even their machinery are probably half the size of some of the bigger mines in Australia. So as big as they are, and I put a photo of me next to a truck on my socials today. This thing was enormous, but I can only imagine how big the actual ones are that work in the big super pits out west. So it's fascinating. I found it really interesting. All right, I think I'll finish up, but thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it, as always. If you're interested in any of my coaching services, please jump on paulsbodyengineering.com. Alternatively, send me a DM and message me directly about any queries or questions you may have. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please screenshot and share it. We're up to I think about 185 episodes now, so we're approaching that 200 mark. So there's plenty of content backdated now. So if you're interested in learning more, please go back through the previous episodes and have a listen. And by all means, share those ones too, because it's always great to relive an old episode and go, oh well, that's obviously made someone's difference. Made a difference for someone because they've re-listened to it, so it's still relevant today. And winding up, as I say to every person every single day, all the way from Barabala, have a great day.